back there, I'm gonna knock you up there! Get right there! Get right here! Get over here, recruit! Get over here! What's taking you so damn blame nose? Pick up your trash, recruit! Let's get move! Pick up!
And the doctor said to me, "Your baby's dead. And remember, this wasn't our fault."
Your baby's dead. We're going to take it. One nurse said, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen a case like this.
My son was born missing both his kidney flaps. He almost died when he was 3.
All the wives in the squadron, they all had either birth defects for their children or they lost their babies.
There were so many infant deaths. The funeral directors, they all got together and purchased the back section of the cemetery so they could just donate burial plots to the families that were losing kids.
Call baby heaven.
Mm-hmm.
The barracks water was brown, and it smelled like diesel fuel.
The water was, and I'm quoting, highly contaminated.
Absolutely.
Well, we found dry cleaning fluid in the drinking water.
And that is considered a likely carcinogen.
That's correct.
Were the people living on the base at that time notified?
No. They knew they were wrong. And whenever this did start to bubble up, then they went into the obfuscations, the half-truths, and the total lies.
Well, that sounds like someone was planning a cover-up.
Surprise! Once we knew the specific wells that were contaminated, those specific wells, those 10 wells, were closed down immediately.
It's a secret. It's a cover-up. It's the lie that becomes the silent killer.
They've never said we made a mistake.
For the past 39 years, I blame myself.
You're 78 years old.
Yes. How time flies. We had come through college together and all that, so I was of a certain age. The first thing that happened was I was invited to a wives' reception at the commander's house. I saw a woman who was even more pregnant than I was. And I said, "When are you due?" And she looked at me, she said, "My baby's dead." And she turned her back. It turned out all the wives in the squadron, they all had either birth defects for their children or they lost their babies.
About a month left before delivery, and you went, and what did the doctor say to you?
The doctor said, "Your baby is dead. Your baby's dead. And remember, this wasn't our fault."
Just like that.
He didn't ask me if I needed help leaving the office or anything. I was just out there sobbing. It was like I couldn't believe that no one was helping me. I couldn't even figure out how to call on the phone to get my husband to come after me. And didn't even help me off the table. Left the room. I had to find my way out.
Hold it.
No, it's just some things you never forget.
So what was it like in 1979 to be a woman and a Black woman?
Racist. That was, I can't say the word, but I was called one.
The N-word?
Yes. And me being a little Black girl from Chicago didn't take it well.
So among your jobs was to clean the weapons?
To repair and clean weapons.
Were you using substances that you've now come to find out were toxic?
Yes, TCE. We didn't use gloves. We didn't use masks. So all of this is exposed.
How many times did you miscarry?
9. Without stillborn. I think I found out I was pregnant like at 4 months or something. 6 months, going into 7 months. 1 week you hear a heartbeat, the next week is nothing. Made me feel ineffective. God didn't make me to have children.
I have to have this oxygen because of the COPD from the burning of all of the different chemicals and other items at the motor pool where I worked. My life revolves around dialysis. Horrible. Because dialysis is just not Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You deal with it the next day, the pain, the needles, the scars. It's the worst thing I've ever had to deal with in my whole entire life. I'm not me anymore. Our children who went to the daycare were exposed. The hospital was exposed. We just had a lot of exposure, and now we're here with all of these different types of illnesses that we can't control. We had a little girl named Amber, and she was a twin. However, that second twin did not survive the second trimester, and they took her.
Were you given the option of burying the twin?
Don't know what happened to it. Just gone. Just gone. And it's not a good feeling, believe me, because we think about it all the time. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh my God, what happened to that baby? And you think about it, and you think about it, and you think about it. Not a good feeling.
Were the doctors at the time on the base, were they understanding and compassionate?
No, they were not. Your baby's dead. We're going to take it.
Crystal.
Yes. They don't care. We lost babies, and they didn't think that it was important.
Who's they?
And still don't.
Who's they?
The military. The Marines, they do not care. Even though we've been poisoned, I'd do it again. I love the Marine Corps, but I didn't know they were poisoning me.
I'm amazed to hear you say you'd do it again.
I would. I am a true Marine, and I loved what I did, and I enjoyed what I did. I just didn't enjoy the way they treated me.
It was exciting. I met a lot of new friends. I was a devil pup.
A devil pup?
A devil pup, because Marines are known as devil dogs. My father was in ITU, interrogation translating unit. He spoke 7 languages. As much as my father preached against it, don't marry a Marine, what did I do? I married a Marine. I was pregnant at 18. My husband and I got married. And during my pregnancy, it became complicated. And I had a condition called polyhydramnios, which means for some reason, the amniotic fluid was just backing up in me. And I just began to balloon. I gained 120 pounds with that one pregnancy.
It must have felt horrible.
That was my word exactly. It was horrible. I had her on Friday the 13th, 1984. I'll never forget it. And when I had her, they didn't bring her to me right away. I'm thinking in my mind, they were trying to prepare me for what she looked like. One nurse said, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen a case like this. So we're going to call in some specialists. And so they decided to medevac her to Duke University Medical Center in Durham.
What was wrong?
They tell me that her brainstem didn't develop, and a lot of other things. She had a huge cleft lip and cleft palate, which left the opening in the front of her mouth. But she couldn't cry out loud. You can see her open her mouth, and you can see tears roll down her eye, but she couldn't make any noise. When I talk about it, it takes me back to that moment. I can feel everything that I felt then. Confused, hurt, helpless, desperate. There's nothing wrong with me. What happened to my baby? And so they did a battery of genetic testing on me and my husband to see if there was anything genetically going on, but it wasn't.
Did you feel like maybe you'd done something wrong?
For the past 39 years. For the past 39 years, I blame myself because I was afraid to have more children. I became depressed. I became a totally different person.
Do you now believe that what happened to your baby was because of the water?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I've had so many health issues in my family, systemic, unexplainable. I had my sister have systemic pulmonary fibrosis. She's never smoked, yet her lungs was dried up like asphalt. She passed away at 42. She needed a heart and lung transplant. Yes, it went through my family like a tornado.
Are you angry?
I'm mad as hell. I'm mad as hell. My dad fought for this country. My husband fought for this country, but you can't take care of his families.
When I was 19, I had an ovarian tumor, and then I got breast cancer at 29. Then I got a uterine tumor 2 years later. Then I had a fibroid tumor in my clavicle. Then my second cancer at 43. I've been poisoned my whole life. I ended up having what they call a toxic pregnancy, where my body was allergic to the fetus. And I was actually working here as a waitress when it happened. I ended up getting hives from my scalp all the way down to my toes. I couldn't take a shower for 3 weeks. My eyes were swollen shut. I couldn't see for 3 weeks. I was depressed, suicidal. You know, having breast cancer twice, I've had mastectomy. I would rather have a mastectomy 100 times before I ever go through what I had to go through when I was pregnant.
Did you give birth to a healthy baby?
My son was born missing both his kidney flaps. He almost died when he was 3.
How rare is that?
It's rare.
And associated with the kind of chemicals that
Exactly. And then my brother's son, he was born with his aorta and pulmonary arteries flip-flopped. called greater transpositions of the arteries. He flatlined 3 times, and he's only 11. My dad, he died a very angry man over Camp Lejeune. And I will never forget what he said. He said, living on base was like a chemical warfare. He said, I went to war, I fought this country for 24 years only to come home and be killed by my own people. I made a promise to my dad before he passed. He told me when he took his last breath, he said, get him, baby.
Well, Jerry, we wouldn't be sitting here, most probably, if it weren't for you. And a journey you started a long time ago now.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
I mean, it has been your singular mission.
It's been a 26 year, over a third of my life.
The instructors, or HATs as they're called, admit that they lay it on a bit. Since they're going to be with the recruits for every moment that the recruits are awake, they believe in starting the relationship on a basis of fear. Respect and trust, they believe, can come later.
I laid down beside her and I whispered in her ear and I said, hey, I told you all these years that we were going to fight this, and we were going to win. I said, but it's time to rest. It's time to rest. You don't have to fight anymore. And right after I told her that, she started breathing less and less, and then finally, she died. The hardest thing I ever did was walk out of that hospital and get in the car and leave her. I almost couldn't leave. I got in the car and I just sat there. So, and then to find out what these people did. And I see the evidence. It's in black and white. Yeah.
And there is no doubt, as we sit here today, in your mind, that your daughter died as a result of being exposed to toxic water.
Absolutely.
ABC Cleaners is right across the road.
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah. Those golf courses are over here.
We found dry cleaning fluid in the drinking water, perchloroethylene.
And that is considered a likely carcinogen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
This sounds like an emergency situation to me. Am I wrong?
I would avoid that water.
Did he seem surprised by what you had to say? Alarmed by what you had to say? Could you characterize his demeanor?
I would classify the demeanor as indifferent. He should have initiated some discussions. But there was an indifference that was disturbing to me, that there was not a genuine concern that we need to do something about this today.
You turn the water on, it's like, it's brown as me. You know, you have to let it run and run and run. Even getting in the shower, you had to let it run because it was so brown and the smell was horrific.
Did you ever say anything?
I said a lot. But, you know, the common phrase that we were told was, suck it up, buttercup.
We lived in the barracks, and the barracks water smelled like diesel fuel, and it was awful. Yeah, it was really awful.
Do you believe that those who were responsible for running Camp Lejeune knew that there was toxic water, covered it up, and failed to warn people?
Negligent? Yeah. And when it started coming out, there were a lot of phone calls. I had heard about phone calls between different people, and there were meetings set up off base. They were going to have a cookout, so they all met at this other individual's house to have a cookout. And nobody else, aside from that particular group, was invited, so they couldn't hear it.
Well, that sounds like someone was planning a cover-up.
Surprise!
Are you talking about people who are in senior positions?
Mm-hmm.
And what came out of those backyard barbecues, do you believe?
A lot of not quite right information. They would talk about the sampling, and then they would say, well, it kind of sort of showed this, but it really wasn't that strong.
A lot of minimizing of the results.
Yeah.
So you were told to turn off 3 of the wells. They didn't tell you that they were contaminated, but you later found that out.
Yeah. And then things started clicking into place.
What about the golf courses need to be watered?
That was a unique situation. I don't know how big the golf course is. It's probably 5 acres or better. When they went out and turned the sprinklers on, they turned them all on at once. So the water in the elevated storage tank that's right there would drop, and the pressure would drop. Then we would have to open the bypass valve to get the pressure back up. So the water, all that contaminated mess, was being sent. It's the only water you got.
Hold it. You're telling me that in order to water the golf courses, the contaminated, the toxic water was being sent to people's homes?
Yeah, because it was all connected just like any other water system.
And when you found out that what you were being asked to do was effectively poisoning the people who were getting the dirty water, the toxic water.
Yeah.
How did you feel about what you were being asked to do?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I shouldn't have to cover that up, and I didn't.
When you look back,
okay,
and you know the damage this water did to people's lives, the cancer it caused, the miscarriages, the stillbirths, the birth defects. Do you feel hurt?
Yeah. Used.
Well, we talked to the funeral directors that were here in this area back in those days. They told us that there were so many infant deaths that they all got together and purchased the back section of the old Jacksonville City Cemetery so they could just donate burial plots to the families that were losing kids.
So this part of the cemetery, called by many baby heaven.
That little cemetery is just a microcosm of the total thing, because a lot of people who lost their children, I'd say the lion's share of them sent their child's body back to where they were originally from, to be buried in family cemeteries or their local church cemetery.
All this contamination fighting story, no one's really looked at the babies that didn't make it. Why not?
The gravestones that you've just shown me are all born right around the time that you were born here.
Yes, my birthday's January 1968. If my mom had drunk one more glass of water or exposed to one more thing, is this where I'd be? It's sobering.
Well, actually, they've known for a while about TCE and its effects in utero and exposure to the mother and the higher incidence of miscarriage, birth defects, and cleft palate.
Brockovich helped bring to light an environmental catastrophe in Hinckley, getting a record settlement of over $300 million for the people there. Now, the movie Erin Brockovich is bringing to light the story of this unlikely heroine.
People don't dream about being rich. They dream about being able to watch their kids swim in a pool without worrying that they'll have to have a hysterectomy at the age of 20, like Rosa Diaz, a client of ours, or have their spine deteriorate like Stan Bloom, another client of ours. By the way, we had that water brought in special for you folks. Came from well in Hinckley.
It is the cover-up every time. It is the silent, secret killer. And that's just the truth.
The cover-up does as much damage as the toxins.
Absolutely, if not more. Because it doesn't allow for grieving, acceptance, understanding, listening, learning, any of that. We keep repeating the same pattern over and over again. And it's disturbing.
All of us are these dead babies' voices. They were silenced many years ago, but now we're resurrecting them and their voices and in their outcry. That's a lie. That was General James T. Conway, Commandant of the Marine Corps. And he had this thing hand-delivered to every elected member on Capitol Hill by a Marine officer in dress blues. And this had the opposite effect that they wanted that to have.
The Marine Corps has recently put out a glossy booklet regarding the history of Camp Lejeune's drinking water and their response to the toxic contamination at the base. It is their side of the story, but the facts are these. The U.S. Marine Corps failed to act quickly or forcefully enough in the 80s to close down water supply wells it knew were contaminated with toxic chemicals that were endangering the health and safety of their Marines and their families at Camp Lejeune. Tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Once we knew the specific wells that were contaminated, those specific wells, those 10 wells, were closed down immediately.
In 2010, you were at the Pentagon, and this booklet was produced under your supervision.
My staff had input to it, yes. I think it was an honest attempt to, at the time, to say what we did know, and we know more now than we did then.
But General, with true respect, it was known in 2010 that the wells weren't immediately shut down. It was known in 2010 that there was an extreme level of toxicity in those wells. It was known. And yet this book shines it all up pretty to try to make what went wrong look better than it was.
I will tell you that I did not know that that was not the case in 2010. And I can tell you that the Commandant did not know that that was not the case in 2010, because we had been briefed over and over that those were the facts, or we never would have published that.
Hold it.
Absolutely.
What you're saying really is even worse. They're lying's a big word, but let me use it. They were lying to the general at the Pentagon and the Commandant about what the facts on the ground were. No one has ever been punished for anything that happened around the Camp Lejeune water situation. No one. That's pretty damning.
It is.
Did you have a chance to talk to those in charge in the 1980s and 1990s who were making decisions on base?
I did not.
Would it have been helpful, do you think?
I don't know. I would be surprised if it would have been helpful.
Well, cancer, kidney failure, and these things take a long time to develop. These babies were dying in real time. Shouldn't someone have noticed besides the women themselves?
You would think that wouldn't the doctors or their staffs have sent up a red flag?
But no red flag.
Apparently not.
Us and to many of you in the room, if not all of you, it's personal. This new law matters. It matters a lot because these conditions have already taken such a toll on so many veterans and their families.
Spent time on base at Camp Lejeune prior to 1988 and developed any of these cancers or suffered any of these injuries, you may be eligible for significant financial compensation.
One investigator uncovered 48,000 pounds of volatile organic compounds.
Jerry and Mike are such the face of the Camp Lejeune story. And anytime there's an environmental contamination, military or otherwise, people will usually call me. It was after a couple of months in the town halls, I started noticing those voices weren't being heard.
It's just
you had a miscarriage. Yeah. It happens.
it'll be okay. I would sit in a circle with them, and one lady would share with her about the number of miscarriages or a stillbirth. And then you kind of see the next lady go, ooh, that happened to me.
Does it feel good to be with each other?
Yes.
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 Because we all have the same issue. We lost our children, and we lost our own selves with all that happened at Camp Lejeune.
Aaron and I were talking earlier today about what justice looks like. What's justice look like?
Like Marine Corps admitting and acknowledging that, hey, we, Department of the Navy and the United States Marine Corps, are responsible for those individuals, especially the women. And I say especially because of us is because that water for males didn't affect the males the way it affected us. Internally.
You're nodding your head. I got cancer at 29. I lost a baby in 96. I got cancer again at 43. I feel like my woman parts is killing me. And I feel like I hate being a woman. Because I suffered. I lived here for 11 years. I'm ground zero here.
I'm elated to be with these women because I knew nobody else personally. I feel just as vulnerable and empty and abandoned now as I did in 1984. The pain never goes away. It subsides. You can talk about it, you can move around it, but it's there forever. Whoever was at the top of the list of the totem pole didn't give a damn about women and their children and their suffering and their pain.
Well, my most anger comes from them not apologizing or even trying to apologize for us. You know why? You kept lying. Why you keep lying? Why you keep stalling? Why you can't compensate us? You killed our children.
I was thinking that I'm probably the oldest mom here, and think about that in terms of all of you younger women are still having this loss, and that is a long time ago, over 50 years ago. And look at this. This is just absolutely obscene.
I mean, you're suggesting if someone had actually looked at what was going on in 1969, maybe all the rest of you might have been spared what happened.
No, they had to know.
Here's the thing, I can feel the rage. What do you do with that rage?
If I do what I wanted to do with that rage, I'd be in jail.
In prison. We'd all be in prison.
I would be in jail, but what can you do? You can't retaliate because you go to jail. You know, and what they did is criminal.
You know, I have compassion and empathy for Ukraine, but I was born and bred right here. Take care of home
Take
first.
care of your own.
Yeah, take care of your own.
You don't even take care of the veterans first. So.
My rage goes into my garden. I can't garden in during the day anymore because of all my illnesses and so forth. So I garden at night. They call me the midnight gardener. And what I do is when I'm mad, I take that shovel and jig it in the ground. And I take that spade and I dig and dig and dig and plant and plant and plant until I'm happy again. Because that's the only way I can get rid of it.
So what do you do with your rage?
Well, considering I'm a martial artist, I box 3 days a week. So I put the Department of Navy's face on my tear bags. And I jab and uppercut.
You know, I'm not a person of rage ordinarily. I don't express myself with any violence. But I find a great deal of relief in writing about what's gone on.
I've been severely depressed. I just pray every night that I wake up the next day, and I've seen people pass on not knowing, and I feel that I might be one of them, that I'm going to pass on before this is ever settled. And I don't think
We all feel that way.
That's not fair. Yeah. That's not right at all.
Do you all feel that way?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that there are countless thousands of women still alive.
There are.
That we need to find.
I understand that you were looking for a grave in our city cemetery.
Yes.
And it's for a family member, I believe. Is that correct?
My first daughter was stillborn.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And I believe that was in the 60s, is that correct?
69.
Okay. Well, now I looked through our records, what we have available, and I've located her grave over at the Jacksonville City Cemetery. And according to the records I have, she's buried in the area that we consider Area D and in Plot 50. And so that would be located on this map right here.
Okay, right by the edge there. That's the way I remember it.
And is there a marker there so that you're able to know exactly where she's located? There are some babies over there that don't have markers.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And I understand that you have a loved one that you were thinking might be located at the cemetery. Is that right?
I'm not sure, ma'am. I just tried to come years ago and asked, and they never had any records. And we're just trying to figure out, where are our babies?
Right.
The stillborn was taken. It was a twin.
Okay. And I've not been able to locate her by her name or those dates.
Yeah, and it's very traumatic to even think about it or to even talk about it right now. And not being able to find any information makes it even worse. So we try to, not get so tied up, but it's hard.
I can imagine.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me the last name.
Kendrix.
Okay, now I don't have any records of baby boy Kendrix being buried at the city cemetery.
Never been able to find a death certificate on him. So we did question, and we were told that babies back in the 80s that were born deceased, there were no death certificates issued in the state of North Carolina.
And you could contact them. They may have records of a baby, F-O-R-D.
Okay. So here is the cemetery. And memories are funny.
Yeah.
All these babies. Oh. See the little bear?
Yes? Is that it?
I think so. Oh, baby girl. Who would you have been if you had been allowed to live and grow? And so I wrote this, and I entitled it, "Whom Did We Lose?" because we lost you. I wonder, would you have been tall like your grandfather or short like your grandmother? Your sister Christine is pretty short. Somehow I think you would have been a lot like Christine. I wonder if you would have been a scholar like your brother and known all over the world for his knowledge of Eastern European music. Would you have been artistic like your father? I suppose you could have been a wild woman, but a little of that's okay. I wonder if you would at this point be happily married with many children of your own. Would you at this age be close to us? Or would you have gone a different path? You could have been far away. We would have loved you no matter what. I like to think of you holding my hand. We miss you. We think of you every day, and I wish you were here. I love you, sweetie. Oh, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. I love you. Thank you. It's good to remember. And not even remember, but hold it. It's okay. We love you. Yeah, I love you too. Thanks for being here.
We'll remember this day forever.
What a nice evening to be here. The little breeze blowing.
Beautiful. That's her calling your name.
Yes.
It is.
I hope she knows she's never been forgotten. Just to come by myself would have been...
I know, you're not by yourself anymore.
And support whenever you need us.
Thank you.
Just give us a call. And thank God you have a remembrance place to come see your baby, where we don't. We don't know where our babies are. They have no idea. They have no idea. They just know they're gone. Jerry is so, so, so sweet to know you, baby.
I'm so glad.
I'm going to call you tomorrow.
Okay. I was treated differently because I was white and I was an officer's wife. And it's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking.
My baby should have been here.
Would it make it better if you had a place, if your baby had a father?
Because I could come and visualize. You see everybody else, they get to come and they get to talk to a name on the headstone. I don't have that option. I don't have that option. I have to go with what's in here. What do you do?
I don't know.
You know, I've been doing this for 30 years. Why do we not understand that when we poison the water, we poison ourselves? Justice will be full disclosure, especially for these women, that this doesn't happen again. We stop that, we get justice.
Oh, I'm so glad I witnessed this with you today. So glad I witnessed.
You're all in my heart now because...
I know. I love you.
I love you too. Who knew when I was looking for you in the
Where's Crystal?
airport?
And I said, I'm Crystal. Thank God that we were brought together like this. Because I'll be your support system too, and so will the rest of us. Okay?
Okay.
Promise.
You stay out of trouble.
You stay out of trouble.
Neither of us.
Good trouble.
We're we looking for good trouble.
Yeah.
I love you, dear.
All right, sweetheart. Love you too.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.